That is the sound of a distracted, divided, and dead American until they hear. Battle for Freedom, triggering change, one heartbeat at a time. Welcome everyone, this is everyone. This is Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo 50 Radio, and I'm glad that you are joining me and being part of this Wednesday. It's a Wednesday away from Christmas, and I cannot believe that we're this close to Christmas and about to have so much fun. It's Wednesday in the Word, which I normally love doing here and getting this to you. So before we start this day off and we celebrate all things that are cool, all things that are amazing, I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo 50 Radio. My website is battle4freedom.com, but I also want you to go to mojo50.com because this is how you get a chance to learn not just about Battle for Freedom, but every amazing program that's on this network. So do me a favor, connect, just reconnect, do whatever you need to do. But I'm glad that every one of you are connecting with here. Just let me get through some of our sponsors so you know exactly what's going on. New Life Holistic. We really appreciate this one. Take a listen here, please. Does your mind seem like it often shuts down before it even starts? Sounds like you need to detox to improve your health in body, mind, and spirit. I'd like to tell you about New Life Holistic. It is an amazing therapy process that uses neurofeedback and biofeedback for many issues that ails everyone. New Life's method and approach to health, balance, energy, and vitality is what sets it apart from anything you have experienced ever before. Call 1-833-4-BIO-LIFE and tell them Watson from Battle for Freedom has sent you. One more thing. Give them the code MOJO50 and save $50 off of your first session. The consult is free. New Life Holistic. New Life Holistic, share it out with as many people as you possibly can, because the whole idea is we're going to have fun here. We're going to have fun, and our goal is to, with Mojo 50 Radio, getting you out some excellent sponsors to bless you and put you in a position where you could be content. Many people have decided that they wanted to interact, and I appreciate every last one of you. I see Carolyn, Linda, Heidi, and Jennifer. They went to facebook.com/Mojo50 Radio. Hopefully I can get some things set up so that I can start seeing comments from Facebook and Twitter and YouTube all at the same time so that I can figure out a way to give you guys some answers, and we go from there. But as we sit here, Wednesday, again, we're in the Word, and timing on this, and I really love this because of the fact that we're going to go into the book of Exodus. The Wednesday in the Word, the book of Exodus. Our redemption is near. And I was happy to actually delay this a week because of the fact that the reason why I wanted to get into this was because of the fact that the narrative and what you see that's in Exodus, and also what you see in the New Testament as we're around the Christmas story. There's so many things that ring true, and there's so many similarities that it's actually very very powerful. I just never really thought about this much until I was blessed with the opportunity to share at my brother's church, and so I looked at Exodus and I said, let's break this thing down. And, it's one of the cool things as I was going through the book of Exodus and I was thinking about this, there's 40 chapters in the book of Exodus. And I completely forgot that. I used to memorize how many chapters were in each book of the Bible. I think Genesis 50, Exodus 40, Leviticus 37, Numbers was that 51, and Deuteronomy. I lost count. I used to actually remember and memorize the number of chapters in each book of the Bible, not just their names and their orders, but even the chapters, because there was something significant. I love numbers. I love going through numbers. Good morning. Oh, so the room is open. Let you guys have fun today and tell me how many times I say literally. Thank you for joining. But 40 days, we think of so many different things, Moses 40 days, Jesus 40 days, 40-day fasts. If you had read or seen the movie, oh my goodness, Fireproof with Kirk Cameron. I was gonna say James Cameron. Kirk Cameron. He had come up with the 40-day fast in terms of putting yourself down, lowering yourself, and moving forward to blessing someone else who's in your life. So if you ever entertain those idea of 40-day fasts, I would encourage you, try reading the book of Exodus as you go through that, and you have fun with that. I think it'll be powerful. I think it would be amazing just to see how you would do this. So I want to go through, and one of the different tools that you can use, whether you're using this on your phone, or you're using this on a computer, Bible Gateway. You just open up the book, just the Bible. If you don't have your own physical, I encourage you to have your own physical Bible. It makes things a lot easier when you don't. You need to all of us need to disconnect from the internet and move in the right direction so that we're not so overwhelmed or I don't know. We just get so distracted with so much going on in our lives. Good morning, Jen and Raquel. Thank you for going in here, and so you have a wonderful day, Jen, as you're off to this. So let's get into the book of Exodus. So the first chapter, remember, so we finished Genesis a couple of weeks ago, and then we're getting into the book of Exodus, and we finished this off with Joseph and his brothers. They were in Egypt. They sold him. They sold him to slavery. Joseph gets lifted up to a very high position, and he guides Egypt through a famine, and to take advantage of the blessings that they're in, and be prepared for a famine that was warning. It was a dream that Joseph had, and what was very powerful with this was, the brothers meant to do him hard. He said, listen, do him harm. And they're like, you know what? You meant to do this for evil, but God meant it for good. All the evil things that you did against me, God set us up for this thing here. So we move into chapter 1 of Exodus, and we find that, Israel increases greatly. Their numbers grow. They expand like there's no tomorrow. They overpopulate Egypt with the Israeli population. The Hebrews grew too big and too strong. And what happened was, in the process of this taking place, sycophant kings can't handle that, and because everything is about them possessing and owning, and so they have to restrict. They have to restrict how much people are in their land. They're always thinking about their security. They're always thinking, and it's not really so much about the security, but if I have all these mouths that I have to feed, that's going to make my life a little bit difficult, because that takes away from my stockpile of pleasure and happiness. Sounds very familiar, right? Kind of like the people who want to limit the population. It's insanity. If population control is not something new. Even here in Exodus chapter 1, you could find out that the idea and the concept of population control, for the sake not so much of saving the earth, but saving my supplies, is something that is old, is the oldest time. So this isn't anything new. So what happens, though, in the midst of everything that's going on, is Israel was blessed to have Joseph, who was there, and who was there to watch over them. The tribes of Israel are now in Egypt, and they're about to go into oppression. They're about to experience oppression. They're about to experience a lot of corruption that takes place. Very similar, very interesting as we look and see what's taking place. Very similar to the scene and the narrative of, when we get into Matthew and start the New Testament, and that they're waiting for the Redeemer to come in. 400 years of silence, and they're upset. They're distraught because of the fact that oppression has taken place. So Pharaoh decides that he's going to oppress Israel. And so we're starting to see that people are grumbling, and people are resentful of what was once a big blessing, what was once great treasures to behold, living in a land flowing with milk and honey and all these other different things. It now becomes a burden. So they move from blessings to a burden as oppression takes over. See, and this is the thing about this really powerful about this story, is that if you get Bruce Wilkinson's Talk Through the Bible, every Bible book has a theme to it. that you can appreciate. And the Genesis was beginnings, the start of all things. Well, Exodus is redemption. And I love this again because of the fact that this points to the Redeemer that we celebrate in 2 days. We celebrate the birth of Christ in 2 days. And so when you move on to chapter 2 is the birth of Moses. And this is where you see the similarities. It's very interesting. The second chapter of Exodus starts talking about the birth of Moses, who's going to be the Redeemer of Israel because of the fact that they are oppressed and they need to be redeemed. They need someone who's going to speak up for them. They need someone who's going to come into this world and confront the powers that be to basically say, it doesn't go like that. Ain't nobody got no time for that. Or however way you want to translate this. I'm going from King James all the way down to Ebonic version of the Bible. You basically take it whatever way you need to. Good morning, Jill, and good morning, Jill and Josh, as well as Renee. Every last one of you. So appreciate you being part of this. But I love this because it's very interesting, the chapter 2s in these Bible passages. You look at Exodus 2 and it talks about the birth of Moses. He's going to be the redeemer or the mouthpiece or the ambassador who's going to represent the children of Israel so that God will set them free. And you look at Luke chapter 2, and we have the story of of Christ, the birth of Christ, and so many different things. We look at Matthew chapter 2, and it even gives you verses that talks about the Christmas story. So it's very interesting. It's very powerful as you look at these chapter 2s, and these chapter 2s that really talk about birth that brings life, freedom, and liberty, and so much more. So we look at this and we have the birth of Moses but Moses, like being a regular human being, he has to leave because he gets himself in trouble. He does things that are not kosher. He actually kills somebody. And this is one of the things that's really interesting is when this separates Moses from Jesus because of the fact that Moses, unfortunately, a stained, sinned individual. Jesus wasn't a sin-stained individual. But still, God has a purpose that's going to happen with Moses as he flees to Midian. And this is the part that I love the most when you look at chapter 2. And this is the end of chapter 2. And this sets the stage when people don't understand how God operates. God has a consistent character of delivering people in the midst of their challenges. Sometimes he'll deliver them through the challenge, and sometimes he'll just immediately pull them out of the situation. But I like this. The verse 23 of chapter 2, it says, during those days, during those many days, the king of Egypt died, and the people of Israel groaned because of their slavery and cried out for help. Their cry for rescue from slavery came up to God, and God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and with Jacob. And God saw the people of Israel, and God knew. See, because I skipped a whole lot where I didn't tell you that in the midst of the oppression, there was slavery. There was slavery that took place. And while we're living in the land of blessings and so much, Egypt and all this intelligence and pyramids and so many other different things. But what was once a paradise is now hell. Making a parallel for us. Are we prepared? Are we prepared? Because we want to fight against a tyranny, but this is interesting because in this story, are we prepared to go through something difficult so that God can once again redeem us and deliver us out of the hands of evil? I know it doesn't feel good. I know as many of us are looking at the landscape of America, the landscape of the world, and we're watching the New World Order and the tyrants and all these other different individuals taking over and taking place and strategically moving themselves into a position of power and ultimate power for so long and an indeterminate amount of time. How many of us are really prepared to watch and perceive and not just perceive, but watch and experience the hand of deliverance by God? Exodus is so powerful because this is just God's resume in constantly showing how bigger he is than the problems that we believe are in our lives. See, The Bible is so exciting, and I'm only in week 3 of talking about the Bible, and I'm 10 minutes, 13 minutes into this broadcast, and I'm still only in the second chapter of how amazing God is in his word. There is so much power and there's so much inspiration in seeing all the different things that God does in our lives just with his word. I am so sorry it's taken me this long to really do a Wednesday Bible study. Forgive me, but timing works itself out perfectly in this. Good morning, William. Thank you for being part of this. But this is his whole idea. Do you understand, in the midst of that verse, Exodus chapter 2, verses 23 and 24 and 25, God sees our pain. God sees our conflicts. God sees all. So nothing's going to escape him. So nothing is going to get, oh my goodness, I didn't see Joe Biden getting 15 million extra. No, stop, chill, take a pause, break. The narrative and the story and the truth that we have from what God has done and delivered countless individuals, even in the midst of their rebellion, even in the midst of their defiance, God chose to show grace and mercy and love to people not deserving it. So, are you going to put your hope in the Bible and what God has shared? Put the words that God, his 66 love letters that he's given to us? Or are we going to follow other man-made constructions that offer nothing but temporary pleasure and no deliverance? So, in the midst of all this, I believe that no matter what happens, sometimes there needs to be a beacon of light. There needs to be a beacon of hope, but it's not in us, but it's in God. See, because when we move over to chapter 3 and there's the burning bush encounter, the moment is like the encounter with the author. This is so that in the midst of everything that Moses has fled the slavery, he's out in the country, he's living off the grid. Yeah, which many of us, if I like me right now, I want to live off the grid. I want to get away with all this, get away from all this craziness. Moses is literally the first person living off the grid, getting away from the oppressors and everything like that. Wow, holy God, Lord help me. And he has an encounter with God. But his encounter with God is because of the fact that he saw God. He wasn't looking for God. He just looked up and he saw it. Well, he was like, oh, let me see if I can find something strange going on here. No. God was already established in the mountain, and he saw God's flame. He saw God's light. See, a lot of us keep thinking, oh, well, we're looking for God. We're seeking for God. Romans 3 says no one looks after God. No one seeks God because of our rebellious hearts, but God always mystically does this amazing thing on a consistent basis of shining himself in the darkness so that we can walk towards the light rather than staying complacent in the darkness, staying comfortable in the darkness. So this whole idea that we're seeking after God, no. God turns on the light. God, I mean, think about this. That light at the end of the tunnel is what we walk towards because of the fact that there's some hope out of the darkness. Here it is, God once again being that beacon of light to draw us to in the midst of these dark times. And it's going to get dark here in America. It's going to get dark around the world. And if you don't have that beacon of light to look at, if you don't have that beacon of light to look to that beacon of light to trust, you will be left in darkness and hopelessness and futility of strength, because nothing you can do will be able to rescue you out of the clutches of evil that seek to destroy every person in this world. This encounter, and God's waiting for you to have an encounter with him right now. The light, the gospel message has been presented to you time and time again. We're all sinners, fallen, broken sinners, and we need God to rescue us from not just from the tyrants, but even the tyrants of our souls. An encounter with God And this is just really powerful as you look and you watch this thing, because when you have that true encounter is not just for you. The encounter is for other people to see that when God touches and transforms my life, powerful things are done in my life. When you move over to chapter 4, where he becomes an ambassador. See, that's the thing about it, is a lot of people believe that, I'm going to become a Christian, I'm going to get all these blessings, and, I'm going to have this relationship with the God who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, and I'm just going to be living in the luxuries of God's splendor because of the fact that he owns the world and it all belongs to me. No. We become ambassadors of God, and he will empower us to do things and before people that boggles the mind, because of the fact that we're so hell-bent on, so people are so hell-bent on thinking that they're in control, where God's basically saying, no, like Newman in Jurassic Park. God's like, no, we're going to set you straight on this and get you moving in the right direction. Understand how clearly I'm the one in control, and this is my mouthpiece that I'm using, this broken individual that I will put in position and give power and strength to basically lead people out of the darkness and towards me, not towards themselves. Because that's the thing, I think that's the danger that a lot of people believe, that once they get power or God blesses them, they automatically think that they should they should be drawn to them. Understand this, I so appreciate every last one of you beautiful people who come here and you listening. You basically share, you share time with me early in the morning. You share time with me, just not myself, but all the other different hosts that are on Mojo Fiber Radio. I so appreciate that. But I'm not the beacon of light. He is. And he is given, even if you never hear from me ever again, you never hear another Mojo broadcast, you never hear another sermon, pick yourself up a Bible and read the Word of God and be connected. Walk into the light. This is completely different than stay away from the light, Carol Ann. No. This is walk to the light, go into the light, because the fact that it will basically, the light not only pushes away the darkness, the light also exposes the problems with us. Because, sometimes when we're in dark places, sometimes we're in dark, murky waters, things get attached to us that we don't see. Like how many times you watch the movies and the people are walking through the swamp and they come out of the swamp and they've got leeches on them. See, now you have to understand, the light is not piercing the swampy water to let you see that there are leeches on you. But when you actually come out of the water, when you come out of the murk and the mire and all these other different things, you see the leeches. I can't stand roaches. And the idea of leeches just completely skeeves me out. But the light makes you aware of what's going on. You need to flash the light on you to see when you have those leeches on you. Lord Jesus, please help us. Let's move to chapter 5. Oh my goodness, we only have a minute and a half. Bricks without straw. So that what happens is the storm before the calm. That's chapter 5. If we look at the storm before the calm, and you normally used to hearing the calm before the storm, but you have to understand that the storm before the calm, because sometimes God has to bring us through situations. He has to bring us, allow us to go through painful situations, just so we recognize that it's not us delivering ourselves, but he's setting us up to see exactly what he's going to do. Chapter 6 is the idea of the consistent message of hope, of that God promises deliverance. God promises deliverance. The question is we're so focused on the deliverance, and sadly, we're not focused on the idea of focusing on that God is the one who's going to give us the deliverer. He's the deliverer. He may send Moses, but God is the deliverer. Look at that message. And it's not, again, it's not me. Don't set me up. Please, I'm begging you. Please. I'm so glad I can encourage you in the morning, but I'm not the deliverer. God is the deliverer. Connect with him, and you'll have a perspective even far better than I pray that your perspective and knowing who God is through his word will be far better than me, because God may allow you to reach people I never could fathom to imagine and encounter. And then we look from 7 to 12. Well, we're going to talk about 7 to 12 when we get back. Good morning, Rod, Mark, Carrie, Linda, if I missed any of you, Dawn, thank you for being part of this. Let's do this. We're doing Exodus. Our redemption is near on Wednesday in the Word. We're going to go to a break. You beautiful people, thank you for joining and being part of this program. Let's go to a break, and I'll talk to you on the flip side. From COVID to lockdowns, to riots, to elections, 2020 has been nothing but a constant withdrawal for people around the world, and especially the United States. It's not only the mental and spiritual withdrawals, but the financial ones as well. Many businesses are closing their doors because of the lockdowns and no income. Sadly, many Americans are finding locks placed on the doors of their homes because of foreclosure due to the loss of income from extreme lockdown measures. Total Money Makeover does not prevent the pain. It attempts to proactively mitigate in the risk of financial failure because of these uncertain times. Budgeting is more essential now than you ever could imagine. Now is the time to make certain our finances are in order. Consider ordering Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey today. It is essential. Triggering change one heartbeat at a time. That is the purpose of Battle for Freedom. My biggest challenge is helping people see that they are constantly moving and never settled. They are not settled in life because they are spiritually and mentally homeless. James Otis wrote the following on the writs of assistance in 1761. One of the most essential branches of English liberty is the freedom of one's house. A man's house is his castle. I host Battle for Freedom on Mojo 50 Radio at 7 a.m. Monday through Friday for this very reason. Our homes are tattered because we have made too many allegiances to ideologies and movements solely created to keep us distracted, divided, and distanced from our foundation. Join me on Battle for Freedom, where I trigger change one heartbeat at a time. Battle for Freedom. Good morning, everyone. This is Watson Prene from Battle for Freedom on Mojo 50 Radio. Good morning, good afternoon. It depends on what time of the day that you're listening to this and you are enjoying this program. I appreciate you listening in. My website, battle4freedom.com, battle4freedom.com. And also I want you to go to mojo50.com. In the timeline, you see a lot of voices that are sharing. These are people who are following Mojo 50 Radio, and we appreciate every last one of them. And some of the voices that you'll see in here are people who have done programs on this network, who are doing programs on this network, or who may do programs on this network. You can have an amazing conversation or relationship with some really sick and twisted people who follow Mojo 50 Radio. And that includes me. I am a sinner. Saved by grace, thank you, Lord. And I have my moments where my brain might be a little bit on the warp side. Pray for my wife. Hey, pray for my wife. Oh, Lord Jesus, this home is really something else when you get a chance to see it in its complete disarray. But today is Wednesday in the Word, and I'm in the book of Exodus and talking about the idea of our redemption is near. And so we're going to continue to enjoy this as where did I leave off? I believe last time from tyranny to freedom. So we get into chapter 7 through 12. This is the idea of Moses now confronting, so this, I love this. This is pretty funny because this is the moment that Moses musters up the courage and he goes and he speaks before Pharaoh. God says, let my people go. Hold on a second, because I love this. In church, we'd sit there and we'd do this song. It says, Moses said to people, Moses told Pharaoh, let my people go. I love that, always doing that. It can do it in the bass, and I can even go lower, but for the perseverance of time, or for the time that we need to stay focused here. Many people want to go out and confront the evil right now. Many people want to confront the evils that are taking place in our country right now. But my question in the process of doing this is, what power do you have behind you? Who has sanctioned you to go do this? And are you operating in his power, or are you operating in your own? Are we operating in our own strength? Because of the fact that in his own strength, Moses couldn't do anything. I mean, he babbled his way out. He didn't want to speak. Moses, for some strange reason, he had a lot to say before, but now all of a sudden he's tongue-tied and he doesn't want to confront. And I think that sometimes being tongue-tied is a good thing. You know, when I get a chance to preach at my friend's church, every time I preach, every time I speak in a weekend event where I get a chance to speak and share with quite a number of people, I always get nervous. I always get shy. Yeah, you hear me talk a lot, but understand this. Standing up behind the pulpit, it is an honor, it is a privilege, but it is also a very, very scary thing. The moment that we start getting confident and believing that it's all about us, that's the moment we have to leave the pulpit. That is the moment. It's time for you to leave. Walk away, Blexit, Brexit, Colexit, whatever you call it. Just get away from that. Get behind thee, or me, Satan, because the fact that it ain't about God's business, you're solely about your business. But that's another story at another time. But now we go into the plagues. We go into the real challenge. I mean, think about this. God makes his promise. What was it, back in chapter 6? God encounters Moses in chapter 3. God knew that they were having these problems back in chapter 2. Why are we are 5 or 6 chapters later, and God's now taking them through plagues? Plagues? He's like, COVID-19. Yeah, that was going on in Egypt at that time. COVID-19 and a few other different plagues were affecting it. There was Ebola, and some of them involved bugs, but it was pretty bad. You would think, and see, this is the funny part about this, is that often we want to be delivered out of the situation, and God's taking us through a situation. I hope this helps, because you have to understand, as a Christian, for the longest time, I've taken to the idea of the worldview, or the biblical end times view, the eschatological view of us being in the pre-trib. It's basically people being raptured up, the church being taken out of the world before all double hockey sticks breaks loose. Right? And so, and that's that idea, right? It sounds good. Oh, Lord, don't let me go through this. I don't want to do it. No. But when we consistently look at the ideas, and from what I've learned, pre-trib was like a recent, like within the last 100 years concept of that the church would be carried away out and before everything went crazy. But when we look at a lot of the passages, we look at it consistently through the Bible, from the beginning, God carries his people through a situation. He carries them. I mean, think about this. Lot lived in Sodom and Gomorrah with all the craziness that was going on. The children of Egypt were in bondage for 400 years before they were delivered from Egypt. I mean, over and over and over again, we're hearing how God carries people through. I mean, remember when we talk about this later of them going to Babylon, they were stuck in Babylon for 70 years. For 70 years, Israel was in Babylon, in bondage. That's a generation and some. There are a lot of people who died off and who were in Israel and never got a chance to get back to Jerusalem because they died in their captivity. So you have to understand that even if you die in your captivity, are you connected with God, and the assurance that no matter what happens, he's in control speaks volumes. Are you going to trust him in the midst of everything going on? Carrie says, my fear is not death, just how I die. I want to die doing something I love, like my grandpa after golfing and my husband hiking in the mountains in Colorado. Oh, that's pretty cool. I want to be at the beach, not in I-4, on I-4 in Orlando. Okay. Okay. I can work with that. I can work with that. It's really good. Yeah, because I wouldn't want to be on, I-465 or 69 or Yeah, I wouldn't want to be on the cluttered sides of Indianapolis when everything went crazy. I want to get out of Dodge as fast as I possibly can. So that's cute. I like that. I like that. That's pretty funny. That's cute. Christopher Ward says the majority of Christians will suffer and fail until death. That is where God will finally answer your prayers after you die. The deliverance is in heaven, not here on earth for most of us. True. But you have to understand something. When you have people giving you flowery presentations of the Bible and the Word of God, and everything is all positive and rosy colored glasses and farting unicorns and everything like that, you don't want to feel pain. Do you realize that pain is no pain, no gain? That phrase has so much power, but we don't want it actually happening in our lives. We don't want resistance training. We don't want resistance against our freedoms and living a life full of luxury, happiness, because we want the pursuit of happiness. We want the pursuit of happiness. We want the guarantee of happiness without the pain. No one in their right mind would say, Lord, give me more pain. No one in their right mind. I don't ask for it. I get it, but I don't ask for it. Sometimes I may ask, Lord, help. Yes, I say, Lord, help me grow. And hence the pain happens. Hence the stressful moments come and they affect our lives. I know every last one listening to you like, yeah, don't care for the pain, but after it's all said and done, oh, it's a good thing. It's a glorious thing. Let's get back to this thing here. So we get from tyranny to freedom. They have the plagues. I'm not going to really go through that. You can read those. You can read the different versions of COVID-19 in the book of Exodus between chapter 7 and book 12. Verse 13, new life and turning away from sin. Not verse 13, Exodus 13. In this whole process of looking this Exodus 13, we get into this whole idea of we're establishing a new covenant, consecrating the firstborn, the feast of the unleavened bread, and the idea that the idea of unleavened bread, removing leaven, because leaven is representing sin, the comfortability that we have in our lives because of the fact that we're gluttonous individuals. We have our gluttony in many different phases between entertainment, between food, and sexual things. It just depends, but we all have our own mechanisms of not having control in our lives. I'll talk a little bit more about that later too for myself. Amen, Carolyn. God gives us trials to appreciate the blessings. Yeah, he gives us trials to appreciate the blessings. And as God establishes the new relationship with us, the covenant with us, he continues to lead us. For 13 verses 17. Chapter 13, verses 17 through 22 talks about God being the pillars of cloud and fire, of he leading us. But see, and that's the thing about it, as we are delivered, as we saw his light, and we were like, oh my goodness, there's hope, there's light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of us, we turn around and we go towards the light and we're happy. We stand out in the sun. Oh, we stretch. We're so happy to be out of the darkness. And we go right back into the tunnel. Yes, we go right back in the tunnel. But why would you walk back into what you were delivered from? And see, a lot of us, it's difficult to understand this. This chapter, this book is just full of just powerful words and ideas and concepts that we never apply to our lives. And again, as long as we're following the cloud, as long as we're following the pillar of fire, as long as we're following God, he will continue to remind us of his power and all the different things that he does to show how big he is and how small we really are. Because when we get to the crossing of the Red Sea in chapter 14, again, this isn't about them. This isn't about the children of Israel. Everything is about God. In the beginning, God. Everything since day one, since I've been preaching this, as I've been teaching you this, as I've been going through this, it's been about God. It's been about God, but we keep taking our eyes off of him. And it's so easy. We have selfies. Look at me. Oh, if you won't look at me, I'll take a picture of me and I'll post it everywhere so you can see it on TikTok, Instagram, MySpace, My Face, or whatever. Because we have that tendency to always make it about I have a tendency to make it about me. I know it drives people up the wall when I have a conversation with them. But the power is in God. The crossing of the Red Sea, chapter 14, chapter 15, the Song of Moses, because when we finally realize it's about God, oh, we sing glory to his name. We sing glory to God because of the fact that we recognize he did not have he did not have to be so benevolent. He did not have to be so gracious. He did not have to be so kind and loving and merciful. And he provides for us as we continue to lean on him. Chapter 16, the bread from heaven. It's always been about God and his provisions in our lives. But then there are times that we'll get stressed out, even in the midst of our blessings, even in the midst when everything's going well. We look at chapter 17, and it's the situation where the people of Israel are so, they've been given so much. They've been given so much, but they're like, is that it? I'm tired of this. Can I get some more? I'm sitting here thinking, I was like, how can you want so much more after everything that God has done? But we do that. Do you realize sin is basically, when we look at it this way, sin in every one of our hearts is basically saying, God, I know you blessed me, but I know there's more out there and I want it. And I want it now. When you think about this, go back to Genesis chapter 3. Adam and Eve sitting in the best old country buffet that you can imagine. I mean, there was no restaurant on earth better than the experiences you had in the garden. And yet, they wanted more. They had the perfect relationship. They had the perfect setting. They had the perfect meals. They had everything. Perfect bodies. Oh, I so need an Adam and Eve body because I think I ate Adam and Eve. But when you sit here and you look at this stuff, we have a tendency to say, I want more. And we can stress people out. My kids, my goodness, my girls, my kids are bourgeoisie. They are so blessed, but sometimes even for them, in the midst of the blessings of everything that God gives them, and provides for them through us, is still not good enough. They want more. And then I have to recognize how much of are my wife and I setting an example to our girls that enough isn't enough and we have to have more? I don't know. Time for some introspection in this whole process here. And sometimes when God blesses us and sets us on the right course, it's still good to have the counsel of people to assist us in this endeavor, because a lot of times we want to be lone Christians. A lot of times we want to do this thing alone, and God has to put people alongside of us to give us advice, voices of reason to hear, not just to ask questions for, but to hear what they have to share and process what they say. Because left to our own vices, we'll screw everything up. I know I have on many occasions. A lot of times my wife was like, do you really want to do that? And I looked at her like, woman, leave me alone. And then a day later, I'm like, woman, you were right. Chapter 18, Jethro's advice about getting other people to. So it's the idea of sometimes you just need to not be the leader by yourself. You need to allow God to move and touch your life in a way that you can be obedient when God is calling us to do things. And then God will start us all over. He'll start everything all over again. Because sometimes we can get complacent in our contentment, and it sets us up for a huge failure. We can get complacent in our contentment, just like here in this country. We got complacent in our contentment. We got too comfortable in our blessings. And new laws are on their way. New laws are on their way. New restrictions are on their way because we got too complacent. There's so much lawlessness going on. So between 20, when we get the Great Commandment, not the Great Commandment, but the 10 Commandments, 20 through 31, we get the law laid down. in terms of how things going to roll itself out. We may be facing new laws in this country under a Biden administration, but but God's law still stands. God's hope still stands. God's promises still stands. And the question is whether or not we want to be connected to that law, the law of love that has been executed and given to us throughout his holy word, or do we want to fret over what man's laws will do? We're in the book of Exodus right now, 2 days before Christmas, because I'm trying to help you understand if God could redeem the children of Israel, out of their bondage, out of their pains, he can deliver you as well. The question is whether or not you're going to put your trust in the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Israel, the God of humanity, who has set a redeemer, a child, to redeem them from their sins, redeem them from the clutches of hell, and bring them into his presence because of what Jesus did for us on the cross. Your choice. 32, our undeniable brokenness. This one's really crazy because of the fact that this is where God's given the law. He's blessed over and over and over and over again. And in the midst of this, we're like, yep, God ain't enough. I want more. Let's make a golden calf and worship him because we don't know where God is. The issue isn't that we don't know where God is, because a lot of times people are like, hey, why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? I would dare say that God, we are the ones who create the bad things because we've walked away from God. We've walked away from God. Our nation has walked away from God. Our families, our communities, our churches have walked away from God. So when we start seeing all the crazy things that we're doing in our lives, do you recognize that is because of the fact that we have walked away from God, but we expect God bless America. And like nobody else, Nick Nolte, head of state, not Nick Nolte, not Nick Nolte. What is his name? You got to be kidding me. I can't remember his name right now. Head of state, Chris Rock. Go watch it. And I can't remember the name of the other guy. He was on Stargate SG-1 and MacGyver. His name will come to me later. But we want God to bless us, even though we're doing golden calf craziness on a daily basis. He's like, it ain't happening, Negroes. It ain't happening. But God says it's time to move on. And it's time for us to move on. I think that, you know what? I don't know. Is it possible the America that we've envisioned and we've appreciated and we've adored and we've idolized is something that we have to remove ourselves from to see a new America, not the one built on socialism, but an America built on repentance? Is it possible that we have to move on from the ideas and the ideologies and the great strong admirations that we have had for our founding fathers and recognize it? If this was a nation founded on Christian principles, if this nation was founded and blessed by God, then our focus should not be on our founding fathers, but our focus should be on our founding father. I don't know. I don't know what this looks like, but they were commanded to leave Sinai. They were commanded to leave this mountain, and they had to move themselves into a position of listening and following God, to get away from their comfortability and start living a life that was about honoring God, period. We need to do this. Thank you, Lisa, for joining. We have in Exodus chapter 32, 33, moving on, and then chapter 34, grace in the law. As new tablets are created, because the other tablets were destroyed in the midst of the disaster taking place with the golden calf. But new laws were given. Grace and new law that was provided, that God, because everybody's like, oh, the law was horrible, all these regulations, all these different things. You recognize that the law kept us busy focusing on the goodness of God, because the law wasn't about saving people. The law was about helping us recognize there's nothing you can do perfectly to make yourself be in compliance and in good standing with God. The law, when you think about this, we have laws in this land right now that we can't even do correctly. How many of you have gone over the speed limit? Raise your hand. How many of you have lied, to your family member, to your coworker, to anybody? Raise your hand. How many? Find a law that we have in this country that you have broken. And you don't have to tell me. Please don't post it. Because of the fact that if you take yourself to jail, I did not tell you to do that. Do not put it on TikTok. Do not put it on Instagram or social media or any other different way. Please avoid doing that for your own sanity. Please. But God brings the law back to us so that we can move in the right direction. We get to 38, we start getting into the burnt offerings that are being made before God. And as we set ourselves up for being set apart, because that's where we're going to get to next week, Leviticus. It's going to be really huge on this. And the tabernacle, we get down to 40, the tabernacle being erected. And just the whole idea of God being in their presence, at the end, they started off in blessings in the land of Egypt. And then they went through a lot of turmoil in their lives. God redeemed them and God delivered them. And then God set them up with a law. They rebelled a little bit, but in the midst of their rebellion, God still had a plan to save them as long as they are looking at glorifying him. God is wanting a tabernacle. God's wanting a tent. He's wanting an altar for us to come and worship him on our hearts. See, that's the reason why we need to be redeemed, because of the fact that our tabernacles, our altars are about us. Always. Our egos edging God out. Our egos that basically say, yep, I got this, God. Don't, no, just scared. No. I got this. Let me take over now. Famous last words. And we see how our lives are broken and ruined because of it. We have to be redeemed from things. I get this warning I use Microsoft Edge, and I use a different wide variety of browsers because I don't always want to use the evil Google browser. But I get this warning. It comes up on my screen. It says, turn on Adobe Flash and Microsoft Edge. It says, Adobe will no longer be supported after 2020. Microsoft plans to remove Flash from Windows entirely by the end of 2020. Because Flash will no longer be supported until after 2020, it'll be turned off by default in the new Microsoft Edge. Other browsers like Google, so they're getting rid of it, right? I'm like, Watson, what are you talking about? We're in the Bible. Well, there are certain things about us that we don't want to turn off. There are certain things that will no longer be responded to in the future. And I believe that God is trying to turn certain things and behavior patterns that are in us because of the fact that it ruins and it stains our relationship with him. I found things for me. I've been trying to lose weight. I've not been consistent. I've been up and down. And today when I got on the scale, I was really up and I was not happy at all. And I'm going to be removing things, the leaven, a lot of different things that I'm going to be making because making changes to. I can't guarantee that I will see you a year from now, but I know that I have to change my life. So there are going to be a lot of things that I'm going to be making some changes over the next couple of weeks, and 2021 is going to be different. And honestly, starting today, there are a lot of things that I'm going to be removing from my diet. No alcohol the rest of this year for me. No alcohol for all of 2021. And there are a lot of sugars I'm cutting out of my diet. A lot of things I'm cutting out because I have to be delivered from it, because I guess I've been too content in what I do and how I eat and how I live that I've put myself in a position that I don't appreciate how I am right now. I want to be here for my family. I want to be here for my kids. I want to be here for God's glory, but I can't do it if I'm not taking care, and if I'm not making the necessary changes that need to happen in my life. So in the next couple of, between this broadcast and the next broadcast, a lot of things are being changed in my life because it needs to happen. Another thing I want to talk to you about before we close this out, the attitude of gratitude. I tell you about things turning it positive. It's time for the 4 days of Java. What will be from me? A book and APR coffee. Yes, so here we are. I told you that there's the 4 days of Java where what we do is an appreciation for a lot of you listeners. A lot of you listeners, for first-time buyers or anyone who's made a purchase this month when they went to mojo50.com/shop to purchase anything. It doesn't matter. There's still one more chance that you can do this if you want to participate. To show appreciation to those of you who have gone and supported Mojo50 financially. We want to say thank you. I want to say thank you. And this is what Battle for Freedom is doing. I was given this week 4 bags of American Pride Roasters coffee, Watson's White Chocolate Caramel. And so I'm going to be sending this bag out with also a signed copy of my first edition book of Stone's Heart. That's also going to be underway next year. And the winner is Toby McAvoy. Toby McAvoy, who will be getting a copy of Stone's Heart and Watson's White Chocolate Caramel. You too can get it. It's not too late. You have until midnight tonight, post Pacific Standard Time. Make a purchase by going to buy anything, and get your name added to the list, because tomorrow is the last day, the last chance to possibly be a winner from this. Yes, my special coffee, Carolyn. Hey, listen, Brad Staggs and Daily Mojo's up next, folks. I appreciate every last one of you beautiful people. Thank you for joining me Wednesday in the Word. Be blessed and succeed.